KPBS On Demand is supported by UC San Diego's Art Power, presenting cellist Joshua Roman, performing from his album Immunity, alongside music by J.S. Bach and more. Sunday, June 22nd at UC San Diego's Epstein Family Amphitheater. Reserve your tickets at artpower.ucsd.edu.
Welcome back to the KPBS Cinema Junkie podcast. I'm Beth Accomando. Here's the second part of my interview with Oscar-winning actor and dancer George Chakiris. My first interview with him was by phone, with saws and hammers buzzing in the background as some construction was being done at the home he was calling from. This interview was in a nice quiet conference room at the Old Globe Theater. Chakiris was in San Diego on Monday to discuss West Side Story before a crowd at the festival stage. He takes the stage at the Old Globe on September 16th for the world premiere of In Your Arms. Here's my interview with him. First of all, I just wanted to find out, how did you first get involved in dancing? What first drew you into it?
Oh, I go kind of back in my mind to like 6 years old. Just as a kid going to movies, I loved all the movies, whether they were musical or not, but the musical ones sort of did grab me more, and they always did, and I loved a musical a film because when I would leave, I would be trying to sing and dance what I'd heard, and they stayed with me for a long time until that's where my imagination kind of went, and it's a great place to go. But I didn't actually take class till I was 19. So I started class when it's a little late, but I'm so glad I did. I went to a wonderful school. It was the best school at the time. Eugene Loring, famous choreographer, he created Billy the Kid for ballet theater. But it was a really great school that I accidentally found out about. And it was the school that all the ballet people from New York, when they were in Los Angeles, always went there because it was really a serious place. So I was lucky to start, even though it was late, at this particular school. It's called the American School of Dance. I don't know, dancing is just, I love to watch beautiful dancing. And I've just thought of Sylvie Guillem. I think she's just now turned 50, and she's going to retire this year. She's so extraordinary. And I think she raised the bar, because all the ballerinas that I see now have all echoed what she did with her body was, and still be perfectly placed, was just mind-boggling. It still is.
So what about dancing really appealed to you, and why do you dance? What is it about dance that you love?
Oh, well, just moving to music that makes you want to move, I guess. I think it's such a beautiful means of expression, whether it's just people going ballroom dancing, or I had a friend who sang a song at some club downtown LA about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was a place where the ballroom floor was open for couples to dance. It was really interesting to watch because I hadn't seen it for so long. All these different people, different shapes and sizes and everything, but how they loved moving to the music. Everybody loves dancing. It's a beautiful means of expression.
I understand you were in the dance number with Marilyn Monroe in Diamonds Are Girls. But what was that experience like?
The experience when afterwards I thought about it more, but while it was happening, the thing was, you have to do the job. Jack Cole, the incredible choreographer, extraordinary choreographer, choreographed that number. He did so much more, but he was her favorite choreographer. He did I think anything that she did in the movies, starting maybe with that and everything else that she did, and probably including, anyway, Jack Cole was her, and she was absolutely, her instinct I thought was perfect to want him.
But square cut or pear shape, these rocks don't lose their shape. Diamonds are a girl. girl's best friend.
You know, people say, what was it like to be around her? And you know, she was quiet, and whenever they called cut for any reason, she didn't look in the mirror, she didn't go to her dressing room, she went right back to her starting position, just like we did. She was so concentrated and so wonderfully interested in her work. That's kind of what I remember. And I remember her as I was around her other times as well, you know, not close, just around. She was, and hey, what the girl, the woman that we see on film is, I mean, she really is kind of extraordinary. I worked on another movie in the chorus, There's No Business Like Show Business.
There's no people like show people, they smile when they are low.
And the final number of that, it's all 5 stars coming down the stairs singing that song, and there are like a ton of people around them. I remember when they all showed up to shoot the first day, Ethel Merman in a beautiful white gown, and Mitzi in a fantastic red gown, and you know, Donald O'Connor. And when Marilyn Monroe came to the set that day, and again, quietly, everything else disappeared. Everything else disappeared. That's my best way of saying what it was like just for her to walk into a room. She wasn't looking for attention. She was just there to do what she was supposed to do. And she, no fuss, no nothing, just, she really was kind of extraordinary, beautiful.
You originally had played Riff on stage
Yeah.
first. So what was it like to be cast as Bernardo? Were you surprised at that?
You know, it's so funny how high and mighty you can get when you're so lucky to be considered for anything. I don't know if I was surprised. My heart was playing Riff, and I thought but I was very lucky that things turned out the way they did. They're both wonderful roles. It's kind of interesting because I think in the theater version, the role of Riff has a little bit more meat on the bones, so to speak. But in the film version, the Sharks, Bernardo and the Sharks, there's more for them to do. The guys are in the American number with the girls, so it's so wonderful. There are a couple of scenes with Maria and Natalie, and how wonderful to be around her. But the transition kind of felt, I didn't think, to me there wasn't a transition because I was so familiar, having done the show, with all of the characters in the piece without realizing it. You're hearing it and you're learning it. And also I was opposite I was saying, the original Bernardo ever was Ken Leroy, and that's who. And I did do a show in London with Ken Leroy and Chita Rivera. I was watching Bernardo every night, and without realizing that I was learning something, I kind of slipped into it, maybe I shouldn't say comfortably, but I guess in a way. What am I saying? It was a nice change, in a way. And when the film was over, I still had to go back into the show, back into Riff again for a while. And it was so great to leave the theater playing Riff, come to Los Angeles and be Bernardo, and then after it was over to go back and be in the theater again. I was so lucky.
And talk a little bit about why you think West Side Story has remained so popular for so long. Talk about what it's still connecting with audiences about.
Well, you know, the story, you know, the Romeo and Juliet story. But prejudice is still alive and well.
We challenge you to a rumble. All out once and for all, except...
On what terms?
Whatever terms you're calling. You crossed the line once too often.
You started it.
Who jumped Baby John this afternoon?
Who jumped me the first day I moved here?
Who asked you to move here?
Who asked you?
Who where you wanted?
Not where you came from.
Spicks.
Mick.
What?
So we can all still connect with that. We probably always will. Just to put it in kind of simple terms, but the score, that Leonard Bernstein score is so beautiful, so moving, so emotional. And I think Jerry Robbins' work, all of Jerry's choreographic work, it's all based on, it's character based. Everything that Jerry has people do is based on what the character is feeling at that particular time. But I just think it's the theme of it, it really is universal. I mean, I can think of some of the just very short little lines that there's one that Natalie says to Richard Beamer, Tony and Maria, it's not us, it's everything around us. I mean, just that one line says so much. And that's kind of what life is like, right, isn't it? It's not us, it's everything around us. And the beat goes on. Yeah.
Well, if you listen to the lyrics of America, there's some very powerful lines. I mean, I think a lot of people remember how vibrant the music and the dance was, but those are really strong lines, too, in the lyrics.
Yeah, Stephen Sondheim. What an amazing collaboration of talents. You know, Stephen Sondheim, Jerome Robbins, Arthur Lawrence, Leonard Bernstein. I mean, because the girls on one side are saying it's better here, and the guys are saying, well, no, it's not better here.
Lots of new housing with more space.
Lots of doors slamming in our face.
I'll get a terrace apartment.
Better get rid of your accent.
Life can be bright in America.
If you can fight in America.
Life is alright in America.
If you're all white in America.
Oh my God, if you're all white in America, of course, I forgot that one. Absolutely. Yeah, and the prejudice against people of color. How about that? That's another really, everybody is aware of that today. Look at, with all these younger black guys who end up being, their lives are ended by the police. And I remember that I subscribed to Time magazine, and there was one cover article because of that. The front cover was about what's it like to be black still today. You know, so it resonates. It absolutely resonates, and I think any of us we get that, we understand it, because all of us, in some way or other, we manage to encounter prejudice in some small way, whether it's not getting a job that. I'm putting it badly, but and I don't mean to say to narrow it down to just prejudice, but that's such a strong component.
Do you think that the theme resonates even more because so many of those dances were done on the real streets of New York? I mean, that just seemed to make it come across a lot more vividly.
Yeah, the prologue, the opening sequence, actually doing it in New York on those streets. Actually, I remember the locations, 91st in Amsterdam, I think, or 90th in Amsterdam, and another one there. There's a school ground where still there, and they duplicated that playground as a set in the studio. Yes, I think starting it. The film in a real place that clearly was a real place and not a set. I don't think the sets looked anything but real anyway. But those opening helicopter shots that get closer and closer and closer, and finally on the streets with these kids, these young people, and they're defending their turf, but defending their turf. And on real streets, and knowing that they're real streets, I think had an impact. You know, one of the things that they did, they got because they were concerned about gang members in the area, and so what they did was they got kids from gangs to help us, keep people away, and I thought that was a really smart way to, first of all, keep people away, and to engage those people at the same time.
Did any of those gang members react to what you were doing on screen, give you any comments?
I don't, because when you're working, you're so concentrated on what you're doing, you don't, at least for me, I don't always notice everything else around me. But ask somebody else and they'll probably say, they might have said something, yeah.
Tell me how Jerome Robbins was as a choreographer. How did you work with him, and did he kind of inspire you to kind of do more?
Boy, inspiration, absolutely. He was inspirational altogether. His choreography is so brilliant. I mean, the luckiest thing that ever happened to me was being hired by Jerry Robbins and getting to work with him. He was such a perfectionist, first of all, with himself, and of course by extension to everyone else. Never, and he said, it's just something you felt. Everyone who worked with him, and there were a lot of people who didn't like work with him, and are openly, but I never saw any of the things that you heard about him. I just remember I loved working for him. I loved his work, and still do. I haven't been to a screening for a while, but every time I go to one, I always see something that I haven't seen before. The last time I saw it, I noticed Elliot Feld as Baby John, because he's so wonderful. But Jerry's work is just, what can you say? It's all character-based. And the beauty of what Jerry does in West Side, and unlike other musicals, when a scene does not come to an end, a scene goes into, and the scene continues with either music or movement, and when that is over, it still continues. So it's not stopped for a musical number and then picked up after the musical number is over, which we kind of got used to that, and I think that's fine. But Jerry did something very, very different. And I don't know if anybody has done it before, but I don't think anybody has maybe really done it since the way that Jerry did. And maybe that's unfair because I don't see everything, but I love Jerry Robbins. What can I say? I really, really, really do. I thought he was so fantastic, and we were all so lucky to be around him.
How would you describe his dance style, his particular style of choreography?
Well, I'm not sure that, for example, Bob Fosse, there's absolutely a style, a style that you can recognize. I'm not sure that Jerry had a style, because I'm guessing now, but I don't think he went for a style. I think he went for a movement that was appropriate for the piece that he was doing, whether it was a ballet that had a theme or West Side Story. I think his movement, because of the way he worked, did not have a style. Again, I think Bob Fosse is a good example of explaining that, because in his work you really do see the style, and I think that's great too. But it's a good way to compare somebody whose work has a real clear kind of style as opposed to somebody who works in another way.
How would you describe it in West Side Story in particular? Because it seemed to be, like you said, it seemed to be very organic in the sense of, like, there's a lot of running these guys do and a kind of athleticism that seems to come from the gang members.
All of that was from Robert Wise and from Jerry. It was directorial stuff that was appropriate for what was happening in a particular scene, what was happening between characters, and I think the story, everything came and was inspired by the story and what that meant that characters should do, whether they're running or dancing or in a rumble or climbing a fence, or but it all's from telling a story.
Well, it did seem like you couldn't tell sometimes where the dance ended and just the physical activity came on. It was seamless. Exactly.
That's a perfect way to put it. That's exactly right. You couldn't tell because it was all seamless, because it was all the same. It wasn't the end of a scene and the beginning of a number. They were connected, so that going into like the American number. Let's see, the guys are saying. Oh, and Bernardo was saying something to Anita about, she's all brainwashed and she loves Uncle Sam. She says, oh no, Puerto Rico, you love, and then she starts saying, it's not so great there, but so it's seamless.
Once an immigrant, always an immigrant.
Hey, look, instead of a shampoo, she's been brainwashed.
Stop it.
She's given up Puerto Rico and now she's queer for Uncle Sam.
Oh no, that's not true.
Puerto Rico, my heart's devotion. Let it sink back in the ocean.
The scene continues, and when a musical sequence is quote unquote over, it's not really over because it goes into the next. And you're right to say it the way you did.
In that America number, I just watched it recently, and it seems like those dresses, the dress particularly that she wore, seemed to be really a part of that choreography as well.
Cheetah Rivera in the original production wore exactly the same dress. Irene Sheriff, who did the clothes for Wes and a lot of other things too, that's such a beautifully designed dress because it moves so beautifully. And you're right, none of the other girls have a dress and a skirt quite like that. Yeah, it moved beautifully, and Rita and Cheetah both used what they were wearing beautifully. And I think that was taken probably, I'm not sure, but I would guess that in creating the number, they with a rehearsal skirt, you start to play with it, and that helps you decide on things you can do with that skirt and ways to move. Yeah, probably was a lot of fun and hard work.
Now, you've just been cast in the Globe's production In Your Arms, so what is this going to be like?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm a little nervous. I have no idea. I think the idea of this evening is really, really a beautiful idea. There are 10 different pieces by 10 different writers. Some wonderful writers. I don't know all of them, but the piece that I'm involved in with Donna McKechnie and the fabulous Donna McKechnie, wow, is written by Terence McNally. It's a beautiful piece. It's I don't know how much movement is involved in this because it really is telling a story about two older dancers, which is about right for the stage of where I am, And speaking of being older, I hope I can do what he asked me to do. We'll find out. That's why it's still a mystery to me, and I'm a little apprehensive, to put it mildly, because I know in this entire evening of these 10 different pieces, you're going to see some beautiful, beautiful work by different dancers. I can't wait to watch them in rehearsal myself. Yeah.
So how long has it been since you've danced on stage?
Wow. The last time I actually danced on stage, I was in the 80s, maybe since then. But I go back to the 80s because I remember that. I was doing some personal appearance tours that took me to different parts of the world. So you had to create your own evening. And there was a wonderful choreographer that I worked with. His name was Claude Thompson. But there was some serious dancing that we had to do. And then sing after but it's been a while. Somebody, I was just saying, said it's like riding a bike. And I'm not so sure that it is, but I'll find out.
But have you ever stopped dancing?
Yeah, I don't take class. I'm so sorry I ever let that happen. I've never stopped exercising because that's really important to the way I feel. So my way of exercising is to go to the gym and do my own thing, so to speak. But I always end my own sessions at the gym with stretching the way you do in a ballet class at the bar at the end, before you go center floor and start doing combinations after the bar. Right now, I'm very sorry that I haven't been in class for too long.
So do you really have no idea at all what this choreography is going to be like?
No, none at all. None at all. But Christopher Gattelli, he's... there are three really strong reasons to want to do this. One of them is him, Christopher Gattelli. The other, of course, is Donna. I mean, she's just so wonderful. And then Terence McNally. I mean, in today's world, I guess it doesn't get better. I've seen Christopher's work only on television when I got to see the Tonys, and because he has choreographed this new production of American in Paris, and it looks so beautiful that it came out of the blue, and I'm just kind of wafting along, and here I am. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
So I was looking up some information on you online, and I was very surprised to find that you do jewelry.
That's probably how I stopped taking class, because I had a little dog, little Italian greyhound. His name was Sammy. Beautiful. When I would take him for a walk, the kids would call him Bambi. He looked like a little deer. And when I was working, I was away for 8, 9, 10 months at a time. And I came back, I was doing a play in London. When I came home, I looked at Sammy and I thought to myself, that's a long time out of his life. So I decided that I was going to stay home with Sammy, and that's kind of, I don't know if it was stupid or not, but that's what I did. And I ended up, I can't remember how I found out about these silversmithing classes, but I started taking them and really started enjoying them because you were working with other people as well. So it was, it was another creative kind of thing to do. And I've always enjoyed making things and working in metal and silver. So I've only done silver, and I love silver. And without trying to, over 4 or 5 years or something that I'd gotten into it, it's now been like 15, I had created a collection and a Japanese I got to know a lot of the people downtown in the jewelry business, and there was I got involved with a manufacturing company down there as well, and there was a Japanese distributor who knew them and wanted to see my stuff, and I met with him, and he liked what he saw, and he placed a really big order, so I was kind of like in business, so to speak. It's a very small business, but that's kind of how it really happened, because I wanted to stay home and be with Sammy. It sounds so corny, but it's true, you know. Yeah.
Well, I looked at some of the designs online, and I have to say that there is this very nice sense of movement in it, which probably comes from your dance, maybe.
Well, maybe. Thanks for that. I didn't think of that. Because jewelry does move, and a design can have movement in it too. I've really enjoyed it. Otherwise I wouldn't have done it. But it could have been something that was just a hobby as well. I wasn't happy with it as just a hobby, but because it came more, it's kind of taken over in a way that took me out of class, I guess. And I'm sorry about that. I should never have stopped. If I ever meet a dancer, I'll say, don't ever stop taking class, no matter what you do. Don't ever stop taking class. It's the best in the world.
Thanks for listening to the KPBS Cinema Junkie podcast. I'm Beth Accomando. George Chakiris will be appearing at the Old Globe Theater in the world premiere of In Your Arms, opening on September 16th. You can mainline film with me every week, with new film reviews each Thursday and interviews every Friday. You can follow me on Twitter at Cinebeth and like the Cinema Junkie page on Facebook. And since the podcast is still new, I'd love some reviews on iTunes. Thanks again for listening.
KPBS On Demand is supported by UC San Diego's Art Power, presenting cellist Joshua Roman, performing from his album Immunity, alongside music by J.S. Bach and more, Sunday, June 22nd at UC San Diego's Epstein Family Amphitheater. Reserve your tickets at artpower.ucsd.edu.